Hey, we're live, guys. We're live. This is Jeff here with eBay Addicts, and today my special guest is RNZY. You guys want to introduce yourself in case people don't know who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. We're RNZY. It's Ryan, and I'm Lindsay. We're a married couple out of Maine, and we go by RNZY.
Awesome. So, how long have you guys been resellers now?
We have been full-time resellers for a little over 3 years. We started in June of 2017, and we literally started on day one as full-time resellers before we sold our first pair of shoes. And fast forward to present day, we're full-time, and we do all footwear. That's the only category that we resell in.
Yeah, I was watching some of your YouTube videos last week, and I was like, man, I really like Ryan's energy, and I like that your fact when you were telling people like, look, you got no excuses, because I say that on my channel all the time, and some people get mad at me and leave me thumbs down, but I'm like, look, I told him, I'm like, look, guys, you're on eBay, they're giving you so many of these free listings, so you have zero excuses. You can't sit here, because what happens is when you start having excuses and you point the finger at somebody else has all the control in your life. But when you say, I'm in charge, I'm in control, there are zero excuses, you can't blame nobody else. So then it's almost like you're taking the power and the action in your own hands, and you can control your own fate in your own life. Instead of saying, hey, somebody else, Aunt, Uncle Harry, Bob, Joe, they're all to blame for me not being successful. So I just like that, because I talk about that in my videos all the time, and people are just like, here we go again, just on a rant again, So go ahead.
Yeah, you absolutely nailed it, and we that from other big resellers. Now, like you said, there's two kinds of people. There's the kind of person who takes control of their actions and takes 100% responsibility in whatever's going on in their world, and then the other person tries to blame something outside of themselves when either good stuff happens or bad stuff happens. And so, like you said, both are real. But it feels better to be in control of everything that you have going on, and we've led our reselling adventure for the last 3.5 years with exactly that. That when we lose, it's because something we did, and when we win, it's because something we did.
Right, that's the way you're supposed to look at life, because it's like, if I run a stop sign or a red light, and then I get a traffic ticket, I'm not going to say, oh, it's the cop's fault, he gave me a ticket. Well, maybe if I was paying attention to what I was doing and didn't run the red light, or I wasn't going 20 over the speed limit, then he wouldn't need to pull me over, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how it is. You always have to look at it like that, because if you don't, then you're giving somebody else all the control and the power over your life. And when that happens, it's almost like you're not in control of your own destiny in life. Hey, I just want to take a time out for a second and acknowledge people in the chat. Joey, thanks for coming by, and Rawson, thanks for coming by, guys. I appreciate it. So, yeah, do you mind? I want to talk a little bit about your backstory before you became full-time resellers, because I watched your video, and I think it was like you were working as a bartender, and one day it was just like, I don't know what happened. It was like one day you're just like, all right, peace out, guys. I'm putting my 2 weeks notice in. I'm out of here. I'm hitting the door. And they're like, what? Is he serious? I don't understand. Like, what happened? So can you talk a little bit about your backstory, about how you came from being a bartender to making 6 figures a year reselling shoes? Like, how did that happen?
Well, it was actually me. I was working for my uncle at a sale lot, making handbags out of recycled sales, a family business. And he and I had very different ideas of how to grow the business. And one day I walked in and all of my stuff was packed up. And he was like, I don't want to work with you anymore. You're out of here. And I went home to Ryan, super upset, all of a sudden unemployed. And then after a conversation with him, and he was, like you mentioned, a bartender. And we were like, he was like, I'm not into what I'm doing. You are unemployed. So let's make some money in a way that we can spend time together and do some fun stuff and make our own schedule. And we just started selling random stuff from around our house that we weren't using, things out of our closets, gadgets in the kitchen, whatever it might be. And then we were off and running.
So you weren't part-time resellers. You just jumped in full head of steam and said, we're just going to be full-time resellers. Like, yeah. And the thing is, when you jump in head first, you don't have a plan B. You didn't have like, hey, if we screw up or we fail, we're going to go back to the drawing board. You're just like, we're going to jump in head first. We're going to open the parachute on the way down and figure this thing out, right?
Yeah, I think the reality was that if the reselling thing did not work out, we could always go get another job that we didn't like that could pay the bills. I mean, I could always go find another bartending job. We both have college degrees, so there's lots of opportunity to go out there and get a job that you don't necessarily enjoy but can pay the bills. And we decided, as Lindsay said, like, we've seen people do this reselling thing full time. It looks fun. Why don't we give ourselves the month of June, back in June of 2017, and say, if we can pay all our bills this month, game on. But if we can't, then in July, we're going to have to start playing catch up and go get a job and catch up on our bills.
I feel like, too, it's not, I don't think when we first entered this, we were thinking we want to resell full time. We wanted to make money living a lifestyle that we chose every single day. So we knew we needed, $800 or $1,000, $2,000 or whatever, and how do we get that money, and kind of reverse engineered back. And selling things was the easiest, in quotes for us, way to do this. So I don't think, it wasn't like we want to, make a career out of reselling. It was like, okay, how do we pay rent, and what do we have available? Let's just bring it in. And then we started realizing, whoa, this is something that the two of our strengths combined can really turn this into a, in quotes, career and a lifestyle change that, allows us to be exactly who we are, doing whatever we want.
Yeah, it's nice being your own boss, but also in the same sense, you're your own boss. So it's kind of like in the same sense, it's like you're going to have days where you don't feel good. You're going to have days where you have flat tires. You're just going to have, you lose your car key. Stuff's going to happen, and you still got to produce. You can't, there's no vacation days. There's no, hey, I'm calling a sick day in for a personal day. It's no, you got to get up off your butt, and you got to be motivated to keep moving. It's almost like, no matter what happens, you can't phone it in and say, hey, boss, I need, those 8 days of vacation days and personal days I was supposed to have. I need 2 of them this week. Is that cool with you? There's nobody else to call. It's you. You're the owner of the company, but you're also the employee. So it's kind of like you can't phone it in just because you have a bad day. You want to speak to that a little bit about what it's been like for you guys on the journey being full-time resellers?
Yeah, there's a few things. And actually, you can phone it in because you can when you're not feeling well. But there's a story behind that. When you're not feeling well as a full-time reseller, if you own 100% of your business, as we do and as you're supposed to as a full-time reseller, you just have to understand on those days that you do phone it in because you're sick or you're tired or you want to take a day off, you do have to pick up the slack the next day that you're feeling better, or more importantly, get way ahead of the game with your system so that when there are those days, which we have, where we just want to shut off and watch movies all day, you actually can do that. That's the thing that when we first started, we heard about, and then now 3.5 years into it, we relish because yes, we are in control of our business, but that does not mean that we have to be working 15, 20, 23 hours per day every day. But if you are lazy, or if you are not creating systems that actually create actual profit, not just a bunch of sales, like actual net profit after all the fees, after your taxes are paid, like all that stuff, if you don't create that, you're going to be spinning your wheels all the time, and it's very, very hard to take time off. But if you start creating systems, and I think one thing that Lindsay pointed out that we wanted to share with the people that are listening that was super, super important, that will also bridge the conversation that you had yesterday with the college picker, was yes, we went full-time in June of 2017 on day one, but we figured out on day one what our bills and our expenses were. So we had that exact number that we needed to hit for that month. And I think a lot of people overlook that, or they don't get very, very specific with understanding exactly how much money they need to make every single month to support themselves. And I'm not talking about extra cars and extra trips. I'm talking about roof over your head, food in your belly, shirt on your back. If you have a bigger family with kids and stuff, like absolutely to the dollar amount what you need per month. And then you reverse engineer what you have to do every week. And then you reverse engineer what you have to do every single day. And that becomes your task every single day. We did that since day one. And then, as Lindsay said, our goal wasn't to make over 6 figures in a year, but very quickly we realized, 1, we enjoy what we're doing. 2, we know exactly what it takes to hit our goal monetarily every single month. And then we can start pouring gas on, we call it pour gas on that fire. And then we surpassed that goal in July, which was our second month in business. And then we were off and running. We realized this could be a career thing, and we set our goals much, much, much higher. And that's when we started with the systems that were in place. As we're hitting our financial goals, that's when we can take the time off, because we know how to hit our financial goals, because we know exactly what those goals are.
Right. Well, when I was saying take days off, I just meant like you're not going to get paid like a regular job where you say, hey, I need 8 hours of sick time, and it just magically shows up on your paycheck. That's what I meant. But yeah, I'm with you on that. It's almost like every month I try to sit down, because you have to look at it like a business. So almost every month I try to sit down and review what all my monthly expenses are, what my income is, and you sit down and break it all down, because it's like this is what's going to determine whether or not the light bill is paid, you got a roof over your head, and you got food on the table. So it's like you have to make sacrifices if you're doing this. Like last year, I was living in a nice. I live in Florida, and I was living in a nice condo down by the beach in Clearwater, but I was paying $1,100 a month in rent. So after a while, I was thinking like, okay, wait a minute. I'm working 6-7 days a week. I'm hardly ever here. It's a public beach. I can go to the beach whenever I want to. So I downsized, and so I was like, okay, instead of me paying this $1,100 a month in rent, plus water, plus electric, plus trash, now my rent's $350 a month, and I pay, because I have 2 roommates, so we split the expenses. So now my rent's $350 a month, and I pay a third of the light bill, right? So now I'm paying like $450 a month all in, as opposed to paying $1,200 a month. Because I'm like, wait a minute, why am I working 6-7 days a week? All the money I'm making is going to pay rent, and I'm hardly ever home. And I'm like, it's nice to live by the beach, but I'm like, I have a car. I could just drive to the beach whenever I want to. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be in my backyard. I can just go whenever I want to go. That's the nice thing of, being your own boss, but you have to be able to make compromises along the way, because you're like, okay, now all this extra chunk of money I was spending in rent, I could take that to buy merchandise and invest in my business. So you're not just running around in circles like a dog chasing his tail, repeating the same week over and over again. You're making a little bit of progress every week, every month. You're not doing the same thing over and over and over again. That's what I'm trying to get across. And so when you look at that and you think like, okay, I'm reducing this monthly bill. Like right now, I'm working on getting my car paid off. And so when that happens, I won't have full coverage insurance, and I won't have a car payment. So that'll save me $400 a month right there. And then I sit here and look at, okay, now on the income bracket, what can I add to my income bracket to generate income? I'm sorry, this show isn't about me, but I'm just trying to get my rant out of the way. I apologize. So when you guys first started, with reselling, you didn't instantly jump on selling shoes. You guys are selling like wooden bowls and all kind of stuff, right? Could you talk a little bit about what happened and like where you went to selling random stuff around your house to reselling shoes? How did that happen?
Yeah, so when we first started, we had no buying budget at all. We weren't going to put any money into this because we had no income. Zero. So we were like, we need to just take advantage of, so there are very, very few people that can't look around their house and find shoes that they could sell and make money. So that's basically what we did. And we just like piled all the things that we don't use in the living room. And it was like you said, it was like random wooden bowl, like salad bowls or whatever that we never use, a Keurig, a random like thing you put in the hang in the shower to put your like shampoo, like random stuff. And we piled it all together, and within that was a couple pairs of shoes. Do you want to talk about the first shoes?
Yeah, and I think the value in what Lindsay is saying is it is important to try a bunch of different categories. Don't just think that. Let's use us as an example. Don't just think that because we are successful reselling shoes that you have to resell shoes to be successful. I mean, the reality in the reselling world is there's so many categories, and there's people winning in all of them, and there's some people that are trying to win in all of them, and there's people who are specialized in each and every single one of them. I mean, we have heard stories about an older gentleman who flips wooden pallets that he like drives around Maine picking them up from factories, and then he resells those, and he makes $dollars every single day. But the point with our story is, as we were doing the wooden bowls and the things that we had around the house, we really started to enjoy the rest of the process of reselling when it came to the shoes. We enjoyed the photos, taking photos, learning more about the shoes. We enjoyed talking to people about the shoes. way more than we enjoyed talking to people about wooden bowls and things and pictures that go in the shower and things of that nature. So I guess the important value here is if you enjoy the thing that you're reselling, you're apt to do more of it. You're going to want less time off from it. And the more time that you spend on it, the better you're going to get. And like, as you're mentioning, you're going to slowly progress. And that's what we've done over the last 3.5 years, where now we are making a significant amount of money every single day consistently. And it's all in the shoe category.
Yeah, it's definitely a great thing when you can be in a category that you're interested in, you know a lot about. I almost compare reselling almost to sports sometimes. Let's say if you're a basketball player, it's easy for you, if you really love basketball, to go out and shoot 100 free throws a day or shoot 100 3-pointers and work on basketball because you enjoy basketball. So it doesn't feel like work to you, right? But if you're somebody and you're like, man, I really like golf and I hate basketball, man, I got to shoot 100 3-pointers today, then it's like that your life sucks now, right? Because you're having to go shoot 100 3-pointers and you'd rather be out of the golf range. So yeah, I totally can understand what you're saying. So man, tell me about what's been going on in your life lately. I got your message last week. You guys are moving into a new warehouse and you've been doing sales locally. I saw something on Instagram and your whole trunk was full of shoes and you sold like 60 something pair of shoes to one person. Can you talk a little bit about how that's been going for you?
Yeah. There's lots of different stuff going on. We were looking at warehouses. That was kind of part of the thing. We're also looking at houses for, obviously we're going to be moving into a house. We live in an apartment right now. And so there's a couple other different announcements that we're getting ready to talk about starting October 1st. But let me reference what you were talking about. It's actually 84 pairs of shoes that we sold to one individual. And actually, this is going to be a great story. We met the individual through Facebook Marketplace because we post shoes on Facebook Marketplace every single day. And we got a lot of questions about that individual sale. People were asking, all right, did you say, hey, I've got a bunch of shoes and post a picture of a lot of shoes? Did you post the picture? And the reality is we each post 4 pairs of shoes on Facebook Marketplace every single day. There's single listings, so one pair of shoes per listings. But in every single description, we put, we are full-time shoe resellers. We have a lot of shoes. If there's anything else that you're interested in, let us know. We offer discounts on bundle pricing. It's that one sentence that's in each and every single description that's opened so many doors for us over the last 3.5 years, specific to Facebook Marketplace, but on other marketplaces as well. And so this individual reached out on one pair of shoes and said, hey, I'm interested in buying more than one pair of shoes. We said, how many pairs are you interested in? He said, I think I want to buy about 10 or 12 pairs of shoes. And we said, all right, whether he said, I want 2 pairs of shoes or 10 or 12, we say, well, what brands are you interested in? And what's your budget per pair? That way we don't have to, send them options. We have 2,000 pairs of shoes in our inventory, but we want to narrow down and be specific. And he gave us a couple different brands. We sent a couple different styles. He said, you know what? I'm thinking maybe I'll buy 15 or 20 pairs. And then that's where we start saying, hey, why don't we get together in person? We'll go over our inventory in person on like an iPad or the phone. Socially distanced, masks on and everything. And he said, all right, how about we get together Monday? And that was on a Thursday. We got together with him on Monday. We started going through all of our inventory. He said he started screenshotting a bunch of stuff that he wants. And the more that he saw, the more that he wanted. And because we were there in person, we were like getting excited about it. He said, if you can get me all this today, I want all of these. And by all of these, he had already picked out 84 pairs of shoes. And we were like, game on. He paid very, very well for those pair of shoes. He, of course, is probably going to resell them himself. But we hit all of our margins, and we got rid of all those shoes in one day, and he wants to buy more already.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was going to ask him, like, was this guy a shoe collector or was he a reseller? Because, there's people out there that collect shoes. They're one of those people that camp out and for these, like, new pair of Nikes or Jordans, they sit out there for 2 days to buy the newest pair of shoes. I don't know why, dude. I'm cool with spending $30 at Shoe Carnival for my shoes. I'm cool with it, When I'm in Florida, if I can get away with it, I'll wear flip-flops every day, if I could, because I'm not really big on shoes. I just, it's just like I'm just trying to get from point A to point B, man. But I'm going to get to some questions in the chat. Somebody asked a question. They said, When building a shoe reselling business with a limited buying budget, what advice can you give me to get momentum with the big sale days?
Yeah, so there's a couple different things, and Keith, that's a really good question. We've got our phone down here. We're trying to keep up with some of the comments as well. So we can only speak from our experience. We started with $0. That's no joke. We didn't have $5. We didn't have $10. We had $0, and we had a couple of pairs of shoes in our closet. So if you have a very small buying budget, the first thing that we would do is not spend any of it and take at least 1 or 2 pairs out of your shoe closet. Yes, they can be used. They can be even slippers like these are, but take one pair out of your closet. Hopefully there's no rips or tears. You don't want any funky smells. You want to make sure the tread is still good. You want to make sure you're presenting something good, and then sell that pair of shoes no matter what it is. And this might sting if you're watching this. Like if you have a great pair that might be worth more, you might be like, oh, I know I could get more out of it. But no matter what the shoe is, sell it for $25 on Facebook Marketplace. It's been our experience. We've sold thousands of shoes for $25 on Facebook. And the importance in that is you're building a relationship with someone in your local community. Then you take that $25 and you go to the thrift store and you buy 2 pairs of shoes with that $25. Now, some people, we've done this before. We've on our YouTube channel where we've shown how you go from $0 to $1,000 in cash in hand in less than a month. But some people will say, oh, my thrifts, the prices are too high, or like whatever. I promise you, there is at least 2 pairs of shoes in every thrift that you can get for under $10 or $10. Or you go on discount day or whatever it is. But the reality is, for this to work, you need to build the knowledge. You need to build the momentum so that when you do have a bigger buying budget, you're not spending it on stuff that you shouldn't get. Now, when you go to buy those 2 pairs of shoes at the thrift with your $25, you're going to want to be super strict. This is a practice that we learned in the very beginning. You're literally going to want to smell the shoes in the thrift to make sure there's no smell. You're going to want to make sure you do the twist test, which means you grab the back of the shoe over here, back of the shoe and the front of the shoe, and you try to twist the shoe to make sure that the sole is not separated. If it's a good shoe, it'll stay intact. If there's something wrong with it, you're going to start to see that maybe there's a rip or the sole is starting to separate, which is very common in thrifts. So once you've done those things, you've smelled the shoe, there's no funky smell. It's a name brand, something that you recognize. The obvious ones, Nike, Adidas, New Balance, Asics, Brooks, Timberland. I mean, we sell over 80 brands every single month, but you don't need to know all that stuff. Just find something that's name brand, no funky smell, good tread, original insoles, because sometimes you go to the thrift and there's no insoles. You want to make sure the original insoles are in there. Once you find those 2 pairs, then you sell those for $25 each on Facebook, and you see where we're going with this. It's super important to learn the system so that now when you do have, let's say you have $100, which is a lot of money, or you have $250 or $500 or $1,000, you're not just buying random stuff and making mistakes. You're being super strict with your sourcing. You're buying stuff that will sell on that marketplace. Then once you start getting into other marketplaces, you have to learn how to look up comps, look up the completed sales of what that shoe is actually selling for. The reason we didn't mention that in the beginning is there's usually, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, there's not any brand that we cannot sell on Facebook for $25 if it's in good condition. That's like
a name brand.
Like a name brand.
Yeah.
So developing that system is super important for someone, especially if they have a small buying budget, but especially if they're new, because you're going to learn all these things. But let's say you do make a mistake, your mistake is going to hurt you financially a lot less than if you're like, hey, RNZY, hey, eBay Addicts, I've got $1,000. Where do I start? Then you start getting into like, what if 500 of those dollars is spent on inventory you shouldn't have bought? Now you're like in a lot of trouble. So you should start that way. And that's the way we started, and we've grown our business that way. From $0 buying budget to now we spend between $3,000 and $5,000 per week on inventory.
Yeah, and what RNZY's saying, guys, he's talking about reinvesting the money that you make, and you got the snowball effect, and over a period of time, your snowball is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're gaining more knowledge and more experience as you do it. You know, I don't put out bolos or courses because I want people to kind of skin their knees, skin their elbows, because you're going to learn so much more making mistakes then we can teach you in a course or video. Somebody asked RNZY the other day, hey, can you put out a course? He's like, man, I give out all knowledge for free, guys. I'm not charging you for this. I'm just trying to, help you guys out. Like I'm like, he's like, I'm a reseller. I'm not a course seller, right? Can you speak about that?
Yeah, well, we're the reason that we are so successful is we both went into this saying we both have strengths, we both have weaknesses. She basically runs this show, meaning she's got the intelligence, she's way better with the numbers than me. I love to go out and like do the sourcing and really get dig into all the stuff. So my strength is more in the sourcing. And when it comes to us early on, we didn't have any money to buy courses. Yeah. So we would ask people questions on Instagram. We would go on YouTube. We would jump on Google. And because that's the way we learned everything, we've never bought any course. We said, why would we create a course and charge people when we didn't learn that way? So we always say we respect the people that have created courses because it's very difficult to put together a course, to create the videos, to answer questions and do all that. So respect to the people that do that. We give them a lot of credit. It's just not the way that we function. And it's not the way that we built our business. So why would we do something that's not outside of us? You said it in the very beginning, just be yourself, find something that you enjoy, find the category that you enjoy, and then pour gas on that fire. It wouldn't make sense. Same thing. The basketball player is not going to go to the rink and start skating. He's going to shoot baskets. It doesn't make sense for us to create a course because that's not how we learned.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I feel like I've got my Instagram, I've got my email listed. So if anybody can send me an email or ask me questions 24/7, and I'll give you out and point you in the right direction or give you advice. It's the same way with a lot of guys like Rockstar Flipper, some of these other guys, their email is listed. If you need help, just reach out. If you take 5 minutes out of your day and you type up an email and say, hey, this is the problem I'm having, I'm going to take 5 minutes out of my day or 10 minutes and respond. You might not like what I tell you, but I'll be honest and give you the truth. So, so I'm going to try to catch some of the people in the chat's questions. Sometimes I start talking and I skip over the questions. It says, do you recommend selling a lower price to start to build up credibility on the platforms? And someone said, on a new pair of shoes, what is the minimum markup you were looking for? I think I watched one of your videos and you said some of these shoes, you guys have a 70% margin when you're flipping and selling these shoes. So I'm going to shut up and let you talk. Go ahead.
Yeah, we average a 70% profit margin across the board. That's our monthly average. It has been for pretty much 3 years now. I don't think we've ever dipped below 70% profit margin. But our main goal is to worst case scenario, double our money on any pair. And that's after any type of fees, any shipping, and the taxes we're going to have to pay on the pair, come tax time. But yes, we generally run it at 70% profit margin. So ideally we're 4xing our money, but worst case scenario.
Yeah.
So you want to explain to people when you say 70% margins, if you sell a shoe for $100, that means you got $70 of that is profit and you had $30 tied up in the merchandise basically, right?
Correct.
That's what we're saying. Okay. I'm just trying to break it down to people in the chat because we're not all rocket scientists. So go ahead.
Yeah. Well, and to take that a step further, what we're talking about is after the fees of the marketplace, after you take money out for taxes, after you take money out if you had to pay for shipping, then we're still at 70%. It's at 70% net. So there's different. That's why when people are posting numbers, it can be deceiving, and we try to be as absolutely transparent, as clear as possible. When we say 70%, like you said, when a pair sells, when we get back $70, it actually sells more than 100 because you have to consider all the fees. And
I was just using that as an illustration. The next question says, how do you and your wife stay motivated to keep moving forward from the beginning? So when you were just getting started, like what made you guys, were you just like, look, we got to eat. We got bills to pay. I gotta have food on the table. We got rent due. Like what made you guys stay motivated? Cause you're just working out of your house when you're first getting started. You had a loft upstairs. It wasn't like you had a big warehouse. You didn't have a bunch of employees. It's just you and your wife hustling, right? Go ahead and if you want to speak to that.
Yeah, it was just me and my husband.
We still
don't tell anybody.
It was just it was me and Ryan. I mean, it was the need to survive, but also like the deep down desire to want to be able to live this lifestyle, to want to be able to, like, tomorrow we have a vet appointment for the dog. Today we want it to be done at 2 so that we could be on with you at 4. Like, we want to wake up every single day and decide that morning what we want to do. And that was our drive between making this work, is this was a way for us to live a lifestyle that we could all day wake up and be like, should we go to lunch today? Should we like source all day? Whatever it is. So that was super motivating to be like, how do we keep being able to literally wake up happy every single day with our life?
Yeah, because the reality is it's not kumbaya all the time. It's not like, rainbows and everything's good and we're skipping down the sidewalk. So we, as Lindsay's saying, we wanted to create a way of earning money so that when those hard days hit, whether it was we're feeling bad or something happens in our family or something happens in a friend's family, or we just, for whatever reason, need to be somewhere outside of where the place is that we would normally earn money, that we would still earn money. And now fast forward to present day, we've really focused on systems that are repeatable. And because those systems are repeatable and literally on a daily basis, we know how healthy or unhealthy our business is. We know where to make the small pivots. There's no such thing in our reselling business as summer slowdown, or like it spikes in Q4 or it slows down in January. That's not a thing in our world 3 years into this thing. It's every single day. We know how much money we need to make. And every single day we either hit that goal and know why we hit that goal, or we come a little bit short and we know why. And then we keep developing our systems so that, I mean, there's been several times we got married, we have taken vacations, and our business just keeps on going and clicking. And we're about to take another big step come October to kind of level us up again, because we're trying to be proactive, because next year there's some big things that are going to be happening. We're going to be purchasing a house. We're going to be expanding our family, hopefully. Like there's big things. We're not waiting for moments to happen and then reacting. We're not waiting for sales to go to zero for us to be like, hey, what's going on? We should fix something. When we're averaging 25 or 30 pairs a day and we only sell 20 pairs that day, we say, whoa, what happened here? Let's figure out what's going on and then make sure we're back on our goal. And now that we've done that since day one, when it was like, month one, we were like, can we sell 1 pair of shoes every single day? That was the goal.
Yeah.
And then there'd be days that we didn't. And we'd be like, why didn't we sell? Was it something wrong with our listings? Did we not list enough? Did we have the wrong inventory? And since day one, we've been talking about that. And now since we've grown, our slow days are just a little bit slower than what we want to have our goals all the time. It's not like we literally have no 0 profit days.
Yeah, I'm with you. I got a question about your sourcing, because I saw in some of your videos, you guys do travel and go to other cities, go to other towns looking for merchandise. Because I travel too. I get a lot of DVDs, Blu-rays, video games, because that's what I'm interested in. So I can walk in there and say, oh, that video game at a pawn shop's $1, and I know I can sell it for $50 on eBay. So but I don't want them to know that I know. So I'll grab like 20 of them, take it to the counter, and buy like 20 or 30 of them at a time. But I just wanted to say, guys, but sometimes when you just source locally in your neighborhood, once you go and you clean them out, it may take a month. It may take 6 weeks for them to restock and get new merchandise in. So you guys got to be willing to travel outside of your comfort zone. Like, I live in Tampa. I can't just sit here and squat and go to 5 shops in Tampa every single day, because once it's cleaned out, it's cleaned out. So you got to be willing to travel. Can you guys speak a little bit about how you guys travel to other cities, other towns, looking for merchandise? Because they act like it's just going to fall and land in your lap and the merchandise is going to come to you,
Yeah, well, so the reality is there's 2 different ways that you can source shoes. There's retail arbitrage, which means like what we're talking about. You're going out, whether it's the thrifts, whether it's brand new shoes at places like Marshall's and Burlington and Ross and the outlets. And then there's online arbitrage, where you literally can order inventory online and have it sent to wherever you are. And then you can, go through it and list it. And so we've done a little bit of both. We realized very early on that the margins on retail arbitrage are amazing, but the pros and cons are you have to actually go out and find all the inventory. So again, since the beginning, we tried to make every single mile that we travel count. So from home, before we even get in the car, we jump on Google and we start looking at all the thrift stores. We started looking at all the Goodwill locations, all the Salvation Army locations, all the little mom and pop thrifts. Then we started looking at the, once we got into new shoes, all the retailers like Marshalls, Burlington. And here's the funny thing. Maine is like a big state. We live in Maine, and there's only two Marshalls. There might be three.
There's 3 Marshalls.
There's 3 Marshalls.
We've only been to 2 of them.
There's 1 or 2 Burlington. We've only gone to 1. I think there's 15 Goodwills all over Maine, but you gotta, do a little traveling. So like you're saying, the long-winded answer is we started realizing that there's these pockets outside of our neighborhood where if we spent time traveling 1, 2, 3, sometimes up to 8 hours away to those pockets, it'll give us a better opportunity to see more inventory and be able to keep being strict with our sourcing, but bring in more inventory. So we started planning these trips, again, making sure every mile counts, taking into consideration the depreciation on the car, the gas, the tolls, like all of those things. And of course, every trip hasn't been super successful, but we learn every trip. We take notes at every single stop. If we go into a thrift and they have 10 shoes for sale, they don't.
The shoe section is really small.
Right. If the shoe section is super small, thanks for clarifying, then we think, you know what? Most likely it doesn't make sense to spend time going into this. So let's look in the area and find another thrift that has 2 or 3 rows of shoes, 1,000 pairs of shoes. So we can look through all of those. So our next trip is going to be a lot better. And then you keep refining that trip. So now when we go on these big, long, sometimes they're 2 or 3 day trips, every 15 or 20 minutes, we're stopping at a new sourcing spot. We're filling up the car. We're filling up a trailer if we bring it. And then it becomes fun because we stay in a nice hotel pre-COVID. And you can bring in a significant amount of inventory in a short amount of time.
Yeah, and another thing is when you travel outside your comfort zone, you're also building up relationships with suppliers. Because I live in Tampa and I met a guy in Lakeland, and now every time I go in there, I don't even have to ask. He's just like, all right, give him a 30% employee discount. All right. And they're like, is that right? They're like, all right, yeah, radio it in. Give this guy a 30% employee discount. And they're like, how in the heck did he do that? But it's building up relationships and doing it day after day after day and getting outside your comfort zone and making connections with people. And it adds up over time. I'm going to catch up with some questions in the chat. Greg asked, he said, do you guys have any other streams of income other than YouTube and your shoe selling business? Do you have any interest in real estate or stocks, etc.?
As far as current other income, I mean, we make like maybe $30 a month on Amazon Associates. Like when people buy, like the link, that we put up for, this is where we buy our shoe shelves, because everyone always asks if people click on that and buy anything from Amazon, then we make like a matter of cents. Just to be real clear about our income.
And YouTube,
a couple $100 a month.
I would say $300 to $400 a month on YouTube.
And then it's just shoes.
And then like 98% of our income comes from reselling shoes. Now, the next part of your question was, are you interested in stocks? No. Are you interested in real estate? Yes. We are very interested in buying land around the world. And the reason that we say that now is because we're going to snowball our shoe reselling business to plateau at a certain level, meaning it's pumping out X amount of profits every single month consistently so that we can start investing all that money in buying land. And we're about 75-80% to that goal of that plateau. And the reason that we're comfortable saying plateau and not like we just want to keep growing and growing and growing is because the reality is you have to repeat these processes. You can get lucky every once in a while and sell a pair of shoes for a crazy amount of money, but that's not a business. A business is I'm bringing consistent inventory in. The source is going to be consistent. The marketplaces that I sell on are consistent. The price points that I can hit are consistent. My margins are consistent. And then that's an actual repeatable system where you can plateau as long as you understand what it took to get there. So we want to do that and then start pouring our money after we buy our personal house. We want to start buying land, and that'll probably be earliest will probably be end of next year, beginning of 2022.
Yeah, I don't want to ruin your surprises. I can just tell, because what happens is, guys, when you hustle and you work,
for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and you're grinding day after day after day, something good is going to come out of that. But you're going to get rewarded for your effort. So I can tell without even me, it's like, it's not like I have his number and I'm talking to him. I can just tell by the way that his energy level is and the way that he's constantly pushing and shoving and working. I can tell that you're like looking at warehouses. I saw your video where you had like 2,000 pair of shoes on these racks. And I was like, man, this guy's got his own like little Nike outlet in his backyard or something, man. Like you had so many shoes. How many shoes do you guys currently have listed right now?
We keep right around 2,000 pairs in our inventory. I think currently like 700 active listings because we have a haul that we just brought in that we still have yet to list, but are in our inventory. So between 17 to 2,200 listings
in our apartment.
In our apartment, yeah, we are in
our
apartment.
I have a shed in my backyard and I have like a little 5-bay garage that I'm like renting. So I don't have a big, I don't have stuff, but he really does have a loft, and he really does have. You guys go to his channel, you'll see big racks of shoes all in his place. He's not just like talking about it, like it's everywhere. I'm telling you guys, he's got it going on lockdown. The guys in the chat, he said, when looking up comps roughly, how many pairs would you like to see sold before buying a pair and pricing it out? Will you still buy it if there are 1 to 5 sales recently, or do you have 10 pairs sold, etc.?
Yeah, so we don't like giving advice on reading comps because it's different for every marketplace. And the reality is both ends of the spectrum can be true. And let me explain what I mean by that. There can be a shoe that you're looking at in the outlet or the thrift, and not less in the outlet because those are more common shoes. But let's say you come across the shoe. It can make sense to buy that shoe if only 1 has sold, or if 1,000 of them have sold. So that's why we don't give advice on interpreting comps. Make a decision based on what you see on the marketplace, and you're going to learn from that. Because some people could say, oh, this shoe has sold 1,000 times in the last month, and they might say, oh, that must mean that it's flooded and there's a bunch of other listings, so it probably won't sell. Someone else could say, no, that means it sells all the time. Both can be true. So we don't like to give advice on how to search comps or tell you like if it's sold 5 times, that's great. We just make sure that it has sold for a price that's high enough. It's safe to say more than once, so that you can understand that someone has purchased that shoe at a profitable price on the marketplace. Because the next part of this conversation is someone could buy a very profitable shoe and put up an absolute shit listing, and it could never sell. You could have horrible photos, a bad description. On Poshmark, you could never share that listing. And you could say, well, the comps are good. How come it didn't sell? It's because you put up a crappy listing. Or someone could get a absolutely crappy shoe and put up an amazing listing. You know what I mean? So like you have to make decisions, and you have to look in the mirror and say, what did I learn from this? Did it sell really well? Great. I know I've learned whether it was the brand, the style, the size, the color. I'm going to do more of that. Because here's another thing that's going to blow people's mind and hopefully open up this idea of winning. There is people that sell the same exact shoes as us on the same marketplace for $100 less and $100 more.
Yeah.
That it's the same exact shoe in the same exact condition. Someone might go, let's take the high end. Someone might go way over the top and do this crazy stylized and photography setup. And it might be like, for example, like a girl's hand and she's got her nails done and it's like a carpet and there's like all these things and it looks really great, where we just put it in our wooden box and make sure it's well lit and everything's good. And then the person under us might put up one photo and it's blurry and price it $100 less. So all those things are happening. You just got to figure out what works best for you and learn and understand why it worked or why it didn't, and pour gas on what's working and stop being romantic to what's not. People message us all the time and say, I can't sell the shoes that you're selling. Can you help me out? And we'll spend 4 seconds looking at their listing, and you can tell they don't really care about taking photos. They don't really care. And we're not saying you need a special camera or a special software. We don't even own a computer. We have iPhone 7s that run our entire business. But you do have to be thoughtful. You do have to make sure it's clear, visible, well lit, and all those things. in order to succeed.
Yeah. So RNZY, we're running out of time, but I got a couple of questions for you real quick before we let you go. What are some of your goals that you guys have for, let's say, the next year in 2020? Like between now and next year 2020, what's some of the goals that you guys have that you're working towards? I know you said you guys want to buy a house, you want to start a family at some point, you're looking at buying land. Like, can you give me any nuggets to tell my viewers? I don't want you to spoil any surprises. Go ahead.
From this interview, what is it? It's September 2020. So by September of next year, we're going to have purchased a house and either be far along in pregnancy, right? or have a baby already? What is that enough time? In 2021, we're gonna purchase a house and have our first child.
Yeah, 2021 is hopefully gonna be like probably the biggest year we've ever had outside selling, but able to happen because of reselling.
We're also gonna have our biggest year in reselling. There's no question. Yeah. We're trending up. This month is our first. Is today the 16th? Mm-hmm. This is the most money we have made in 16 days in our entire reselling career, and we're just snowballing.
I was gonna say the same thing, that you've been reinvesting along the way to get to that point. That's what I was gonna say.
So I think this is super important. You are right. Yes, we constantly reinvest, but we also put money aside. I won't talk specifics, but the reality is we didn't know COVID was going to happen. We didn't know the world was going to be set. Like all these things, we did know that bad stuff happens in the world. So, save money for a rainy day. Like we've all heard that. We're all adults. Rainy day fund or emergency fund. We've heard all that. And so since the beginning, whether it was literally $1 or $5 or $10 or now it's significantly more than that, we put that away in savings. And we don't like to talk specific financial stuff, but we have a significant amount of money in savings that we don't even need to touch, but we're also reinvesting into our business. So I think sometimes people think that they have to reinvest all their money, or they're not sure, should I only reinvest 10%? And all of those are okay answers, but just think of what your goals are and reverse engineer that. We knew early on that we wanted to be prepared for emergencies, or we wanted to have a rainy day fund or whatever. So when our buying budget went from $0 to $20 a week, we were like, all right, where can we get the most shoes for $20? And then when our buying budget was $100, we were like, all right, maybe we can put $5 or $10 in savings and spend $90. And now that our buying budget is several $1,000s, the reality is, real numbers, we put more than $1,000 away in savings every single week, while we're also reinvesting a ton of money into new inventory. But that's only because we put so much time and effort into researching what we should actually buy. We don't just buy thousands of dollars of random stuff. Before we spend $1, we know exactly what we're looking for. And then if we come across something while we're out sourcing and we don't know it's a good buy, we sit there and we take the time to look up the comps and make sure it's a good buy.
Right. Hey, somebody in the chat wants to know how much you did in the last 16 days in sales. And before we let you go, I want you to give me 3 good tips. If someone's a part-time reseller and are thinking about switching gears, going to full-time, can you give us your 3 top tips that would help somebody out? If they, because you guys have 3 years experience, so if you can give us some knowledge on that, and then we'll get you out of here, okay?
As far as the last 16 days, I mean, we just said we don't share specifics, but five figure profit.
Net profit.
Yeah, so that's.
I'm not. Somebody in the chat. I'm not trying to be nosy. I was just trying to get the chat's question up there.
Yeah. So 5-figure net profit so far
in the last 16 days.
And then 3 tips.
Number 1, if you're part-time and you want to become full-time, one mistake that we made in the very beginning was comparing ourselves to other resellers. I know that might sound corny. I know it might, but we were like, oh man, we're only selling maybe 1 pair a day. We're not good resellers. But the reality is we were better resellers than when we had first started in the first couple of days. So do not compare yourselves to us. Yeah. Do not compare yourselves to any other reseller other than yourself yesterday. Try to do better than what you did last week. Try to do better than what you did last month. And when you do, you're going to feel pumped. You're not going to be like, oh, I sold 100 pairs this month and I only sold 50 last month, but 100 is not as good as some other reseller, and that builds momentum.
To go along with that, tip number 2 is to keep track of everything. And if you want it to, we always thought like from day one, if you wanted to pay it, like pay you like a business, treat it like a business. And so from day one, we were keeping track of everything. Our stuff was free because we had paid for it long ago and had forgotten how much we paid. But keep track of everything you're buying, how much you're buying for it, how much you're paying for it, how much you're selling it for, fees. One, it makes tax time a hell of a lot easier. And like Ryan said, then you can compare yourself to yourself. So we know exactly, June 15th of 2018, we know exactly what we did for profit, what we did for sales, what our average selling price was, how many pairs we sold. Like we have all of that in our Google, and it's just Google Sheets.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, so keep track of everything.
And just use Google Sheets. It doesn't have to be this crazy, ridiculous.
Maybe tip number 3 is don't overcomplicate things. Or do you want a different tip?
So that can be 2A.
Go ahead.
The third one. What's the third one is you have to know, and I love bridging gaps between. You interviewed College Picker yesterday, and one of the biggest things that he said, which should be taken to heart and will bridge to today's conversation, you have to know how much money you need to make. It cannot be random. It cannot be like, oh, I made $1,000 this week, but your bills are actually $1,500, so you're not close to paying your bills. You have to know bare bones, roof over your head, food, and include everything. Include if you do enjoy going out to eat. Include that in your goal. If you do enjoy, I'm trying to make stuff up now, buying a new outfit or whatever it is, like obviously include gas for the car, obviously include your groceries, obviously include electricity bill, water bill, like whatever you have. And then you're like, all right, this is how much I'm gonna be. I mean, respect to you for making that smaller. That's super important. That's like the next step. Like, hey, my bills are $3,000 a month. That's too much. I gotta downsize. And that's such a healthy thing to do. But you don't even know to make that step if you don't know what your bills actually are. And you'd be surprised how many people we talk to, and they're like, I'm a part-time reseller. I want to become full-time. What do I do? And the first thing we're like, all right, how much do you need to make? And they're like, I don't really know. I know my rent is this. But I don't
That's
know.
why.
And so we got to say, all right, you got to know exactly. Is it $10,000 a month? Is it 5? Is it 2? Is it whatever? And that could be our last thing is it's so rewarding. Let's just use whole numbers. If you want to make $1,000 in a month, you know how much you need to make each day, and hitting those small goals at the end of the month, you're like, holy crap, I made 1,500 and my goal was 1,000. Now you can really start building your business. But if you're going blind, if you're not keeping track, like Lindsay said, of all the things, there's going to be stuff that you miss out on, and whether it's profit or whether it's you actually didn't make money when you thought you did, or you don't know what your goal is. You got to be specific. And that might sound corny, but that's the base of building a very successful big reselling business, because now we know our goals are much higher every single month, but we know exactly what we have to do every single day.
Right. I appreciate you guys. You're going to give me your final thoughts, and we'll get you out of here.
Yeah, I think, do you got any? Yeah.
I'm like exhausted.
Well, one thing is, a couple things actually. Don't be too hard on yourself. It can be super stressful when you're your own boss, but also look in the mirror and be honest with yourself. Be very, very honest. It's easy to build up this giant death pile. I think it's super corny when people call it a money pile. I mean, yeah, there's a bunch of money sitting there, but the reality is, do not source stuff unless you're going to list it. Period. That's like saying, I want a job at this place, but I'm actually not going to show up to the job. Like, the job would tell you, I'm not going to pay you if you're going to, like, if you're not going to come to the job. Now, I'm not saying you have a bad business if you have a death pile, but you really need to be honest with yourself. To get back to the root of, be honest with yourself and say, okay, I know I'm not going to list 100 things this week, so I shouldn't source more than 100 things. So be honest with yourself. Be okay when you make mistakes, because that's going to lead to really, really good things. And don't be scared to set the bar really, really high. In the beginning, we were like, oh man, I hope we can pay our bills this month. And then we paid our bills. And then we're like, I hope we can pay our bills and put $100 in savings. And then we put $500 in savings and paid all our bills in month 2. And then we're like, are we not believing in ourselves enough? All right, we want to go crazy and say we're going to sell 5 pairs a day. And we sold 8 pairs a day. and we keep pushing the limit on that. So hopefully that's not too confusing. It's be honest with yourself, but also don't be too hard on yourself. There's so many different ways to win. All right, here's the last thing. If you have any questions at all, reach out to people that are at a level that you want to reach. Some people will not respond to you. Some people will respond, I'm only going to answer you if you buy my course. And some people, like eBay Addicts and like RNZY, will answer your questions for free because we enjoy engaging and talking with people. So have the thick skin to get denied sometimes, but have that thick skin to keep asking questions. We still reach out to resellers all the time and we're like, hey, we don't understand how to level up here. Can you help us? And some people are like, forget you. You haven't bought my course. And other people are like, yo, I love you guys are positive here. Let me help you, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. Yeah. He does respond to emails. I know because I sent him an email. So I know, that's how I know. So, hey, guys. Hey, thank you for your
response to all the emails.
Yeah. Thank you for your time today. I appreciate you guys. You're going to have to come back on the show sometime soon. Maybe after Christmas or something. We'll have you guys back on. Thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate you guys. Bye.
Thanks for the time, man.
All right. Thanks.